In this video, you will learn a very interesting move order for approaching the Philidor defense. The Philidor defense is a very solid defense and very difficult to break. If white doesn't react properly, black could find himself with an advantage. The normal move order to reach the Philidor defense is e4. e5. Now white usually plays knight f3, developing the king's knight and threatening to capture the e5 pawn. Black can respond d6, entering the Philidor defense. The Philidor defense is considered a passive defense, but it is very solid and difficult to beat, and black can even have an advantage. Now, the best move for white is d4, occupying the center with his pawns and increasing the pressure on the e5 pawn. Now black can play knight d7 to strengthen the defense of the e5 pawn, entering the Honham variation. But even better is to continue with knight f6, developing the king's knight and threatening to capture the e4 pawn. White can respond knight c3, developing the queen's knight and defending the e4 pawn. And now black can play knight b to d7, entering the improved Honham variation, since developing white's knight to the c3 square usually benefits black. In the master game we're going to study today, white started the game with the move d4. Black played knight f6, which is a very flexible move. Black develops his king's knight to its natural square and takes control of the e4 square, preventing white from occupying the center with his pawns. White played knight f3, developing his king's knight. Black played d6, taking control of the e5 square. This is a very flexible move, and black can continue with moves like g6, bishop g7, and play in the style of the king's Indian defense or the Perk defense. Now white played knight c3, developing his queen's knight and taking control of the e4 square, with the idea of following up with e4 and occupying the center with his pawns. Black played knight b to d7, developing his queen's knight. White played e4, occupying the center with his pawns. Black responded with e5 and transposed into the Philidor defense. With this move order, black avoided some awkward lines. Now, white played bishop c4, developing his king's bishop toward a good diagonal and aiming for the f7 square. Black played bishop e7, developing his king's bishop and preparing to castle. Black can continue with moves like c6 to take control of the d5 and b5 squares and limit the mobility of the opposing pieces. The queen can be placed on the c7 square, where it will be very well positioned, as it will strengthen the defense of the e5 pawn. They can also play h6 to take control of the g5 square and perhaps advance with g5 to attack on the king side. Black has a very solid position and very good play. Now white played knight g5, threatening to capture the f7 pawn. Black castled to defend the f7 pawn. Black can continue with the move c6, queen c7, and can expel white's knight and force it to retreat with the move h6. And once white's knight has retreated, he can play e takes d4, and then follow up with the move rook e8 to put pressure on the e4 pawn. Black would have a very good game. For example, if white now castles, black can play e takes d4. After queen takes d4. Black can play knight e5, attacking white's bishop and reinforcing the defense of the f7 pawn. If white retreats his bishop to the b3 square to keep his bishop on this diagonal, black can play c5, attacking the opponent's queen to expel it from the center. After, for example, queen d2, black can play c4, attacking white's bishop, which suddenly seems to have few squares to go. After bishop a4, black plays a6, threatening to continue with b5 to trap the enemy bishop, and black is winning. And if, after the move knight e5, white retreats his bishop to the e2 square, black can play h6 to force the opponent's knight to retreat. After the knight f3, black can play knight g6 and can continue with moves like rook e8, a6, b5, and then develop his queen's bishop to the b7 square to increase the pressure against the e4 pawn. Black has a very good game. In the game, after black castled, white played bishop takes f7 check, sacrificing the bishop with the idea of taking the initiative and trying to gain an advantage. The game continued with rook takes f7. White played knight e6, invading with his knight into the enemy camp and threatening to capture the opponent's queen. Black played queen e8 to defend his queen. White played knight takes c7, capturing another pawn and attacking the queen and rook on a8. Black played queen d8, defending his queen and threatening to capture white's knight. White played knight takes a8, capturing the enemy rook. White has captured a rook and 2 pawns in exchange for a bishop. But white's knight has been trapped and is about to be captured. Now, black played b6, with the idea of following up with bishop b7 to capture the enemy knight. White played bishop e3, completing the development of his minor pieces. Black played bishop a6, completing the development of his minor pieces and taking control of this diagonal to prevent the white king from castling kingside. At the same time, black threatens to capture the white knight. White played d takes e5, capturing the opponent's central pawn, attacking the opponent's knight, and also threatening to capture the d6 pawn. Black played d takes e5, and the white knight remains under attack. White played knight takes b6, capturing at least a pawn since the knight was lost anyway. Black played a takes b6. White played queen d2, mobilizing his queen and preparing to castle longside. White has a rook and 3 pawns in exchange for 2 minor pieces and has a material advantage, but black's pieces will activate very quickly and black has very good attacking chances. Now black played queen a8, removing his queen from the d-file and increasing the pressure on the e4 pawn. White played f3 to strengthen the defense of the e4 pawn. Black played bishop b4, pinning the knight c3 to limit the mobility of the opposing pieces. Now it would be a mistake to castle queenside, because black can play bishop c4, activating the bishop and increasing the pressure on the opponent's castling. Black can mount a very strong attack against the white king. For example, in the case of a3, to try to expel the bishop on b4. Black can play bishop takes a3, sacrificing the bishop to completely destroy the opposing king's defenses. Black has a decisive attack. After b takes a3, black plays queen takes a3, check. After king b1, black can play rook f8 with the idea of following up with a rook a8, and the white king won't hold out for many more moves. If, after the move bishop c4, white plays b3 attacking the other bishop, black can play queen a5, increasing the pressure on white's knight, which has lost part of its support. White can play king b2, reinforcing the defense of the knight on c3. Black can play rook f8, with the idea of following up with rook c8 to increase the pressure on the pinned knight on c3. Black has a decisive attack. For example, after b takes c4. Black plays queen a3 check. King b1. Bishop takes c3 and threatens to capture the opponent's queen and checkmate on b2. White can play queen c1 to defend the queen and avoid mate. But black plays queen b4 check, and the white king cannot move. After queen b2, queen takes b2 is checkmate. In the game, after the move bishop b4, white played a3, attacking the enemy bishop. Black played bishop c4, freeing up the queen's action along the a-file and pinning white's pawn to defend his bishop. White cannot castle queenside, as black continues bishop takes a3, sacrificing the bishop, and the variation we saw earlier would be reached and black will win. In the game, after the move bishop c4, white played rook d1, escaping the pin and threatening to capture black's bishop. Black played knight takes e4, eliminating the opponent's central pawn and sacrificing the knight to open the f-file and obtain a decisive attack. The game continued f takes e4. Black played queen f8, threatening to invade with his rook along the first rank, which would lead to mate. For example, it is not possible to capture the bishop with a takes b4, since black plays rook f1 check. The white king cannot move. After rook f1, black plays queen takes f1 checkmate. And if after the move queen f8, white plays bishop f2 to block the f-file and avoid the threat of mate, black can play bishop c5 and is winning. In the game after the move queen f8, white played bishop f4, giving up the bishop in an attempt to defend. Black played rook takes f4. White played queen e3, intending to escape with the king to the queen side. Black played bishop c5, defending the bishop and threatening to capture the white queen. White played queen h3, defending the queen and counterattacking against the black knight. But black played rook f1 for check, and white resigned. Since in the case of king d2 trying to escape with the king, black plays queen f4 check, and the white king cannot escape. After queen e3, black plays queen takes e3 checkmate. And if after rook f1 check, white plays rook takes f1. Black plays queen takes f1 check. After king d2, black plays queen f4 check, and the white king is mated. Since in the case of queen e3, then queen takes e3 is checkmate. And if white goes with his king to the e1 square, black plays bishop f2 checkmate. A very instructive game in which you could see a very interesting order of moves to reach the Philidor defense.